Hello everyone and welcome to another Guild Wars 2 video. Today we're going to be looking at the living story of the Tower of Nightmares. This living story, before we go into the reasons why, has made a drastic change to the zone of Kessex Hills. If you look in the background now, there should be a picture of Kessex Hills as it was any time in the game before this update. And now here is a picture of Kessex Hills after the update. Looks a little darker, doesn't it? And a little more dead. So when you first zone into this new Kessex Hills, you were thrown into an instance. If you're above level 25, you're thrown into a story instance. The story instance has you meeting with some Seraph who are going to try and find Marjorie and Casimir. With these Seraph, you end up fighting some new enemies, or really a new version of some old enemies, of the Krait and the Nightmare Court working together. They have formed a new association called the Toxic Alliance. These Toxic Alliance mobs are reskinned versions of the Krait and the Nightmare Court, where the Krait are glowing green and look very, very corrupted, and the Nightmare Court just are darker, it seems, than other Nightmare Court. The mobs are very condition heavy, which makes sense considering, it's supposed to be all about poisoning and all sorts of stuff like that. And also the Nightmare Court, the humanoid mobs, whenever you get them down to 0 health, instead of just dying, they go into a down state. And if you watch them, they actually have decent AI on their down states and will try to heal each other, which can actually get them all killed, just like in World v. World, because you try to heal someone and then you all die from AoE. The Toxic Alliance members are streaming into Kessex Hills from a giant tower which has been built in the middle of Viathan Lake, which is, of course, what the patch is named after, the Tower of Nightmares. The nice thing that ArenaNet did is instead of just making this giant tower appear out of nowhere, which they still did a little bit, but at least they made an effort, is in the last patch, there was a giant force field. You couldn't go into Viathan Lake, it pushed you back. And all of the trees around Viathan Lake were cut down. The story basically explains why we can now see the tower. As you continue fighting with the Seraph, you eventually come to a toxic sorcerer, I believe, who puts up a toxic stalk. This causes most of the Seraph soldiers you're with to be incapacitated, and the main Seraph soldier you're fighting with to hallucinate and think that you are a centaur. You slap her back to her senses by fighting her for a little bit, and she stays there with her men as you go on to find Marjorie and Casimir. You find them in the ruins of a village on the north side of Viathan Lake. They're there stealthing among a bunch of the Toxic Alliance members who are just roaming around the area. Once all of the random Toxic Alliance members are killed, Casimir and Marjorie will come out of stealth and will begin discussing with you. And just as they're about to tell you why they're there and how the tower appeared, a big Krait attacks you. This big Krait is something I have not seen in Guild Wars 2 before. They might have been present in Guild Wars 1, I'm sure they were, but it is an Oratos. It's I guess a big old Krait, I don't know. This could just be a regular Krait that has been able to unlock their potential for shape-shifting again, which they have not demonstrated at all in Guild Wars 2. But I don't know. That's just me not knowing the Guild Wars 1 Krait at all. Once you defeat the Toxic Oratos, Casimir and Marjorie get back to telling you what happened, and they play this little cutscene, which shows you exactly how the Tower's Veil ended up being dropped. And also gives some nice dialogue because they're both awesome.
That tower was veiled with illusion magic until just a short while ago.
I found the perfect spell. It was luck, really.
It was fantastic. The sky darkened and...
I could sense the magical framework. A Mesmer had formed the illusion.
She just closed her eyes and raised her hands toward it. Magic crackled from her fingertips.
I found the crack in its cloak. A magical poke in the right place, and it dropped like...
Like a Norn fart at a moot.
Jory. So when the veil came down, there it was. The tower.
And the Krait. And the Nightmare Court.
They weren't happy. Still aren't.
So there you go, the tower was behind a nice big veil of Mesmer magic, which kept anyone from seeing it, and also from, I guess, noticing the effects, because poison happened really fast. That's all of the story instances this patch gives us, but there is a little bit more story hidden among things. After the story instance is over, you can go out into the zone of Kessex Hills, which will have, of course, many of the Toxic Alliance to fight, and you'll be gathering these pristine spore samples, which you probably saw one at the, or some of them at the end of the rewards chest from the personal story mission there. You take these spore samples and turn them into marjorie. After you turn in 5, you're able to use them along with gold to buy new rune and sigil recipes and the new heal skill, which I suggest you buy the new heal skill with skill points instead of those, but that's your choice. One other big part of these achievements is finding the Krait obelisks. So the theory is that Scarlet, who is probably behind this, and it's pretty much confirmed by the next update's release thing, Scarlet has found some Krait obelisk pieces or something to bribe the Krait into this alliance. These Krait obelisks I'm not going to go into too much, but they are a huge hinge of the Krait religion. They believe that their prophets ascended to the next world with them. Part of this update is to go around the world and find all these Krait obelisk pieces. I believe there's 24 in total. And you have this transcriber with you, which you are able to take the data from that back to a vigil or a priory person. The interesting thing about these shards is that they're talked about showing similarities to the bloodstones. Not that they are of the bloodstone, but yet that they have magic and they contain magic within them. One also nice thing to note is that most of the pieces of the obelisks are around the Mount Maelstrom area, which makes sense as it's a giant bay, and they slowly become more sporadic as you go farther inland along the rivers that the Krait use to get to their new homes in the lakes and rivers of Tyria. This is really interesting because this is pushing us towards the Krait right now. I don't know if we're going to keep on this theme, but as a friend of mine from the guild pointed out, with these the concentration of these pieces being near Mount Maelstrom and them exhibiting things like the bloodstone shards, don't you think that the gods of Tyria would have gathered up some of these monument pieces and, taken them to Ore? And if you notice, Mount Maelstrom's to the east of Ore, right above the Scavenger's Causeway, which could be a very big Krait hive. And if you also look at Ore on the east side, it looks like there's a water avenue into the middle of Ore, which could give us access to a cleansed Ore, and also more Krait there, of course. This would be interesting as it could open up the path to us to Alona and the Crystal Desert, just not along the path we expect. Most people expect we're going to go through Ebonhawk, and that gate by Ebonhawk to get to the Crystal Desert. One other fun theory is that we are going further west towards the Maguma Wastes. This is more of following Scarlet because all of her bases are supposedly pushing west. If you notice, the last one was in Twilight Arbor, which is about as west as we can get. There are some nice theories behind this, and this could also mean that we'll get the reveal to the Jungle Dragon soon, which could tie into how the Krait are even working with the Nightmare Court. They might be corrupted for all we know. We won't know the direction the story takes too much until we get into the tower itself, which will be in the next update. Right now, the tower is completely impenetrable to us. We are just outsiders looking at it and looking at the giant plant inside of it. And really quickly, I'm going to address one of the big bugbears everyone has with this update, besides the fact that Scarlet's involved, because some people hate anything with Scarlet anywhere near it. So why did the Krait, who are one of the most xenophobic races of all of Tyria, why would they ally with the Nightmare Court? There's a couple options to that. One is if you notice the Krait that are in Kessex Hills and around there, they don't look the same as other Krait. Supposedly in a live stream it was talked about that was just chosen as an artistic choice, but these Krait do not look the same. It's possible they are corrupted, as I said earlier, by an outside influence, which is causing them to work with another faction. It's also possible if you think about how far have the Krait been pushed. When we last knew of the Krait, they were basically the rulers of the deep ocean. They had free reign of a giant area to do whatever they wanted. They didn't need anything from any races, so of course they're better than other races. That's not true anymore. They have been pushed by bubbles to be like on the edges of the coasts and in rivers and lakes now. The race as a whole could be pushed much further than we even realize at this point. And the promise of maybe getting something that will bring their profits back, that right there is a very, very strong incentive to ally and break with what they usually do. I will say that it is strange that this race is allied with someone, and I'm not going to decry ArenaNet for it right now, but let's just say they better have a good reason for it. One other thing I've noticed lately is that there's a very big trend of Mesmer magic. I don't know if you've noticed. I don't know if it's just a hand-wavy, oh, we want something, so let's just say a Mesmer did it because they can do whatever, or if there's actually a trend here that we need to pay attention to. If you notice in the Twilight Arbor Aether Path, the hologram generators, those aren't just like holograms. They are basically Mesmer clones. They shatter like a Mesmer clone and they cause confusion. Now, Viathan Lake was shrouded by a giant Mesmer veil, which had to be a massive spell to be able to hide that big of a thing for so long. This one's a little bit of a stretch, but it still ties in, and that's if you notice the poison that we get, the toxic spores, this poison causes hallucinations. These hallucinations attack anyone around, they're visible to everyone, and I mean, it's another thing that's not real, but yet can hurt you. That could be an influence of Mesmer magic on this poison itself. I'm not sure who this Mesmer behind the scenes could be at all, but it's an interesting thing to watch for, and if there's some powerful Mesmers that come up, they need to be paid attention to. One interesting thing to bring up during this update is not only are Casimir and Marjorie seen in Kessex Hills, but so are Rox and Bram. Rox and Bram can be seen at some of the toxic offshoot events. I don't have any footage of this, but I have seen pictures from other people of it, and there's been people talking about it. And they'll just help to destroy the toxic offshoots. Not only are they present, but the Lion Guard, if you go on the southeast edge of the tower, they have a little bombardment site set up where they're catapulting the tower. So we have Marjorie and Casimir, Rox and Bram, and the Lion Guard, which could easily lead us to Ellen Keel, all being involved in this event. This could lead to a big convergence of characters during the next Tower of Nightmares update, which would be really, really interesting to see. One thing that you need to pay attention to there, though, is when a bunch of very prominent characters come together, especially when they're trying to make the living story like more impactful to people, it's very possible that some of those prominent characters could end up dead because of this. But that's all I have to say about this update as it stands. It's a really nice update, and it's really impactful. And if they continue on with the storyline just itself, it could be really interesting and open some new avenues to us. If you have any of your own theories or you have something to debunk one of mine, please put it in the comments section. I would love to hear from all of you. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you missed the update, then I hope this helped catch you up. If you missed any of the last Living Story updates, I have videos on my channel for all of them. And also, I hope you enjoyed the nice 1080p high quality on these videos. This will be what I believe all of my Guild Wars 2 videos going forward will be. This new computer is awesome, and it enables me to do that now without crashing everything. So yeah, once again, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.